Hello everyone, it is me, or at least it is my hands, and it has been a very long time since I've been on this channel, because it's been a very long time since I've listed any patterns. There were some things that made listing patterns a little bit more difficult, like my dog, who you can hear crying in the background, along with computer troubles and troubles with Etsy in general. My mental health was also just not great, so those little obstacles seemed much bigger than they actually were. Because my mental health was bad, I was struggling to even accomplish the bare minimum of my normal work, much less have time to focus on patterns, which are largely a hobby. But I'm going to try and get back to it because I think part of having a good mental state is having balance. And that means doing a variety of things and things that you like. And one of the things that I like is listing patterns. So today I'm going to take you through a bunch that I counted and listed, oh god, over a year ago at this point. And these are more from my New York pattern lot. These came out of a general store from Mississippi, if I recall correctly. I have a video about organizing them, and I also have a video taking you through the size 14 and the size 12 pattern. So we've slowly been moving up the scale. Today I have over 50 size 18 patterns to share with you. They're all factory folded. They're all going to be listed in the shop at the time this video goes up, and they are pretty much all for a 36-inch bust, if I do recall correctly, and that would be for a 30-inch waist and 39-inch hips, I want to say. Believe it or not, this is a large size vintage pattern. It's far more often to come across size 12s and 14s for 30 and 32-inch busts, so seeing so many size 18s in this lot was great, and there are actually many larger size patterns in this lot too, which we will get to in the coming weeks. But for now, I'm just going to start in the middle and start talking you through these various designs, and I might have to take breaks because of dog reasons, but we'll see. Let's start with one that is not in the best condition. This envelope has been taped and the tape is obviously yellowed, but this is a really lovely wrap dress. It looks like it can even be an apron. It is sleeveless with darts to shape the bust and a square neckline and really large pockets, which is always great to see. And I'm not going to describe the condition because all of these are factory folded new old stock. This is a very, very simple pattern. As you can see, there's no shaping through the waist. Instead, it is shaped with a belt, and it's got a yoke neckline detail and a square neck. This one has an R sticker, which means it's a repeat, and I did that just to make it easier when I was listing them. It also makes it easier when I'm describing them because I won't go super in depth on designs we've seen before. But this one is really cool. It's got these very interesting large oval shaped pockets, and then you actually put your hand in the center of the pocket. This is just a house style design with sort of lightly off the shoulder dolman sleeves and then fitting with darts, and it looks like it zips up the back and has a wrap element to it as well. This is another repeat, and I might have saved a copy of this for my own personal stash. I really like this pattern. It's just a two-piece ensemble from the late 1940s or early 50s. It is darted below the waist to offer some shaping and to make it tuck into things nicely. It has off-the-shoulder dolman sleeves, a button down front, and then you can make this with either a more traditional collar or a mandarin collar. And you've got this bias cut skirt to finish off the ensemble. This is another one of the earlier designs from this lot, and I think this is actually just a pattern for the blouse, or not even the blouse, for the vest. So you have these three different waistcoat or vest options, and this is another repeat, and this was one of the earlier patterns, as I said. So this one's number is 605, whereas a lot of the other numbers are in the thousands. So that definitely dates this to an earlier period. There's a lot going on with this pattern since it is just for vests, but there are some pretty lovely vests and could definitely be handy if that's something you want to add into your wardrobe. This is for a suit, and honestly I don't find this pattern terribly interesting. It is just a pencil skirt and then a princess seam jacket, but I do find the illustration really interesting. The fact that they chose this super vibrant, almost blinding check that pretty much hides all of the lines in the garment to the cover. It's definitely an odd choice, but it is also eye-catching, so I sort of understand why they did it. This is another one with the 600 numbers, that this would be earlier, and this one has a badly eaten envelope by whatever insects got into this box. Luckily, by the time they came to me, there were no insects left to be found, but some of the envelopes had definitely been damaged by them. This is a maternity pattern for a pencil skirt, or a wrap style skirt with an adjustable waist, and then a smock jacket that isn't fitted at all through the waist. This is another suit pattern, and I believe this would be an international pattern, and that's why it's black and white. I don't know the reason why, but I know a lot of patterns in the 1950s had black and white envelopes in Australia and other countries. And this is actually a much more interesting suit pattern if you ask me. It has a pleat at the front to offer more room when you walk. It also has this interesting button detail at the sides of the hips, which is sort of snazzy. And then this seam actually leads into a pocket, which is pretty snazzy as well. And now my dog is chewing on something in the background, so I apologize, but it is better than whining. This is another earlier pattern. This is number 945. And I'm surprised I didn't keep this for myself because it's just a beautiful button-down blouse pattern. You can have it with short, almost capped sleeves or with long balloon sleeves. You can make it with a collar or without a collar, and it's got this yoke detail across the shoulder with gathers extending down from it to offer volume over the bust. Just lovely, very simple, very good basic to have. Now we have another vest pattern. So apparently there were two of those in the same size. Speaking of ones there are two of, this was probably the most repeated pattern in these lots. I feel like I had two of these in every single size, and it's a really nice nightgown pattern, just bias cut to make it more fitted through the waist, and then gathers underneath the bust for shaping there, and a low V neckline. Here's a pattern that I probably would have kept if I didn't own variations of this from every single brand. This is just a really nice shirtwaist dress. What's interesting is that this can either button front or zip front by the looks of it, which is handy because buttonholes are a pain in the butt. In hole. God, I'm hilarious this morning. And I really like that this has pockets inserted into these side panels here, and they have this interesting sort of pointed detail to them, which is sort of reminiscent of the collar. This is another pattern that I'm sort of surprised I didn't keep for myself, and now that I'm looking at it, I kind of want to keep for myself. I really like the button detail at the shoulders. I just think it's really, really cute. Okay, I'm setting that one aside and I'm keeping it. I'm sorry. I'm a monster. That hasn't happened at all in these videos thus far, which is pretty impressive. Here we have a beautiful wrap style dress. It's got this sort of double-breasted asymmetric detail at the front, and it's got a scalloped collar, which is mimicked at the armhole, and it's got these really wide pockets and a bias cut skirt, and this is a repeat, so we've had this one before. Another repeat, another maternity pattern. This one is for a pair of culottes or cigarette pants, and then this sort of large tunic-y button front top. This is one I'm not keeping for myself, but I do think it's very, very cute. This is just a simple dress with a keyhole neck and an optional collar and wing cuffs. You can make it with short or elbow length sleeves. The reason I'm not keeping this is because it has a pleated skirt, which aren't my favorites, but it is very, very cute. This one is also very cute. This is a halter style neckline dress with a bias cut skirt with pockets in the front seam, and you've got this really cool jacket or bolero that can go over top of it with a button detail at the front. I really like this. I especially like it with the jacket. I just think it ties together beautifully. I've shown this pattern before, but I continue to really love it. This blouse has this wing sort of collar, and then it's mimicked with these really sharp pointed buttons over the bust. Or not buttons, I'm sorry, pockets over the bust, which you just don't usually see, so that's quite cool. You can also have sort of a keyhole neck and then a mandarin collar, or make it with no collar at all. And this has dolman sleeves that are cut in one with the bodice panels, and they can be either elbow length or short. I've taken the dog out, she's had a chance to go to the bathroom, so hopefully she'll just go to sleep and let me keep filming. She's actually usually very good in the mornings, which is why I decided to film this in the morning. But she knows I'm filming, and she's decided to be naughty, because she's just like that. And there's nothing I can do about it because she's doing it for attention, so if I give her attention by telling her to be quiet, then she wins. So I just have to sit here, listening to her whine. And it doesn't feel like I'm winning either. But anyway, let's keep going. So right on top here, we have this very pretty sort of lightly flared design. Pretty much all of these are lightly flared designs. They're from that early 1950s period where very flattering practical styles were in. Still had some of that tailoring from the 40s without as complicated a tailoring with a whole bunch of tabs and stuff. So you've got this yoke detail at the front that the sleeves mount to, and sort of a wide, vaguely square neck. You can make this with short or long sleeves. And since there is this tab detail, these aren't dolman sleeves, they're not cut in one with the bodice, but they aren't cut quite like traditional sleeves being inserted into an armhole either, because the top edge of the sleeve forms the neckline. It's a really cute pattern, and when I had a friend over, we were following a pattern, I actually pulled this out as an option because I thought she would like it. And the reason I didn't decide to keep this for myself on my own is because it has a pleat at the front, and I'm just not a big fan of pleats or volume in that area. But I do really like the design of this. I think the yoke detail out of the contrasting fabric at the neck and then mimicked around the pockets is really cute, and I love the button details. I really like the pocket shape too, and how you can have sort of top stitching to mimic the detail at the neckline, even on the long sleeve version. It's just a really, really darling, well thought out, well designed pattern. This is a repeat, and this is a double-breasted dress. I think it closes at the front and then has a gathered skirt fitted to a waistband. This has sort of dolman sleeves and optional collar, though I think it looks a little weird with the collar, to be honest. I do really like how you can feature large buttons at the front, though. I have a large collection of buttons, and I feel like oftentimes when I actually need buttons, they're not the excited buttons in my stash. They're like really boring, really tiny ones. So it's always fun to see a design that really lets you have buttons front and center. It's another pattern that I probably would have kept for myself if it wasn't for the pleats. They really love their pleats. This has a pleat right at the front to offer a little bit more shaping and volume, and the lines of the pleat actually line up with the darts on the bodice, which is always a nice detail. You have two different color options for this, and then it buttons to the waist and has semi-dolman sleeves. Like, it barely has a sleeve at all, but it extends slightly off the shoulder, which is a very flattering line. This definitely has dolman sleeves, and this is a repeat. I've had this in pretty much every size, and these are just various bolero jackets with various color options and lines. I especially like this one. I think it's really, really cute with the collar and the button detail, but this one is quite nice as well. And these would be very practical to wear too. They'd go with a lot of different outfits for a lot of different eras. This is another maternity pattern. This is another repeat. This is a really nice wrap dress pattern, as you see here, or you can make it a skirt with this smock, which is very loosely fitted, as was the style. I don't think this is a maternity pattern, but it almost looks like one. This is a wrap dress with buttons at the waist and gathers over the stomach, so that would be really flattering whether it is a maternity pattern or not. And then you have a large lapel and optional short or long sleeves. I feel like this almost looks like a house coat. It's very, very casual, but then this looks like something you could wear to work. And I always appreciate that duality in patterns, especially when they're shown on the pattern covers, so you can really get an idea of the different ways you could construct it and the different ways you could wear it. This pattern is so, so cute. I'm kind of surprised I didn't keep this one for myself. I think I didn't because it doesn't have a longer sleeve option. I typically like longer sleeves, but this buttons all the way to the hem. It has tulip shaped pockets, which is darling. It has double darts under the bust, which is always really flattering, and then some light gathers around the neckline. It looks like the armholes and the neckline are finished with bias binding, which is a way I really enjoy. It's a lot less fussy than facings for something like that, when you can have the finish add a bit of contrast and decoration to the bodice as well as being functional. Just really beautiful, really great summer dress. This is not a summer dress. It's very autumny looking, but this does also button all the way down the front. This has a full bias skirt and dolman sleeves and a low V-neck, and I think this includes a pattern for the dickie as well, which has a roll neck, but this would be great for layering in the winter with existing blouses or turtlenecks in your wardrobe. This is another repeat. This one just buttons to the waist and then has a, I can't tell, I think it's a pleated skirt, and this looks like more of a rectangular skirt than a bias cut or gored one. And this has dolman sleeves as well that can either be short or long, and a simple V-neck, no collar to be seen. Here we definitely have a collar though. This looks like you can make this as either a dress or a blouse and a skirt combo, though it's sort of mysterious because they have the waist covered. I'm sure it says on the back, I've just covered it with the instructions. Some of these had very fragile envelopes, so I wanted to get them photographed and tucked away as quickly as possible, which is why I didn't show them to you in their original form before they were listed and put in clear envelopes, because some of them just would have deteriorated to dust and pieces would have ended up getting lost. But I think this is for a blouse and skirt or dress, but it might just be for blouse and skirt that you can wear together to make it look like a dress. Anyway, you can have this for short or long or no sleeves at all. It buttons down the front and it looks like it's just fitted with darts at the underbust and then just loose below that point. And then the skirt buttons all the way down the front and you've got these large sort of hidden pockets. This one I pulled out when I had a friend over as well, and I thought it was just darling. Again, I don't know why I didn't keep it for myself. I think because I have too many patterns, but it's been a while since I've bought any patterns, so I'm going through these and being like, ooh, I could add this to my stash. My stash is feeling a little empty. It's really, really not though. But this is a great, very full gathered skirt with patch pockets. Then you've got a fitted bodice with short dolman sleeves with a cuff to them. And then they have a dickie pattern with the flare collar as well. Very, very cute. This is an interesting design. This is more indicative of sort of the mid to late 50s, which there aren't a lot of in this lot. It's also one of the more formal patterns, whereas a lot of these are more casual. I think this was probably in a small town where they didn't sell a lot of formal patterns. But this is a drop waist dress pattern, and it's got this sort of scallop detail over the hips, and then it's got ruching at the bust and a scoop neckline and an optional collar. They have dressed this even for more of a casual way. It looks like they made it out of light pink cotton or something. But they've also shown it with a wrap and how it could be more formal. And I think you could make this out of a black taffeta or something and have it look really, really quite fancy and smart. I do appreciate how unique this is, especially compared to all of the other ones, but it's not my personal favorite style on me. Drop waists are just not made for me and my hips, but it looks amazing on some people. This is not a maternity pattern, though it kind of looks like it. This is just a large swing coat pattern. It's got this really wonderful large yoke and then sleeves extending out from that in almost a raglan fashion. You can have it with longer elbow length sleeves with these really great cuffs that sort of mimic the yoke detail, and then that's mimicked again on the pockets. Just a lovely, very fun, very practical pattern. I love swing coats in the winter. They really are just great. This is another swing coat pattern, but this is more of a 1940s style, so it doesn't have quite as much swing to it. This one's more tailored. It has more of a square-shaped cuff, and then it has more of a square-shaped collar as well, so they're sort of mimicked on each other. But much like the other one, this can button all the way down the front, or just have visible buttons on the top and then a hidden closure below that. Here are some really great practical blouses. These are more tailored than most blouse patterns you will usually see, with the placket at the cuff as well as the pocket, but they're really lovely nonetheless. Great practical pattern to have in your stash. And it would look amazing with a pattern like this. So this is for the vest or the waistcoat. I really like the collar or lapel on this one. I think it's really nice, and I really like the sort of sharp points at the bottom. And then you can make this with a pencil skirt, and it's a relatively simple pencil skirt, but it has these pockets inserted into the sides, which offers sort of an interesting shape detail and an interesting practical detail as well, as I suppose. You don't usually see pencil skirts with pockets. This is similar in terms of the fact that it is a vest and a skirt pattern, but this is very different, much more casual and less of a working lady. This also has a very different neckline. You can either make it with a square neck or low V-neck in a single button, and neither of them have collars. And then I believe this does also include a pattern for the gored skirt that is paired with it. This is a repeat, but this is a lovely suit pattern. It is for a gored skirt. I say gored, but I think it's actually more cut on the bias. It's got a seam at the center front and center back and pockets, and because of it being bias cut, it does have a little bit of flare around the legs, even though it is relatively slim cut. And then it has this asymmetrical jacket with a little collar. It is fitted with darts, and it has long raglan sleeves that are inserted to the bodice pieces on an angle. I love raglan sleeves. They're very, very easy to install. Not enough patterns have them, in my opinion. I don't remember if this is a suit or a dress or a two-piece dress. Those terms are all sort of used interchangeably at points, but this is a button front jacket or faux jacket with dolman sleeves and a few different color options. And then you've got this relatively full skirt that goes with it with pleats to shape it. I feel like the same lady would wear both of these. This is a jacket or blouse pattern, so a blouse or over blouse pattern that can almost look like a jacket depending on what textile you use. And this buttons all the way down the front. It has some shearing at the shoulders to provide volume over the bust, and then it has darts underneath the bust. It has this petal-shaped peplum to it, which I imagine tucks in nicely or looks nice over top of a skirt. You can make this with either short or elbow-length sleeves. We have another house dress here, and this is again one of those ones that has no shaping through the waist and instead shaped by a belt. Very comfy, very easy to make, and easy to wear. This is a house dress pattern of sorts as well, and by that I just mean a more casual dress, but this one has a flared skirt and a wrap style to it, or at least I think it does. It has this faux wrap detail at the front with a V-neck, but I think it does actually wrap around at the back instead of having a zipper. But I did count and list these like a year ago, so my memory is a bit foggy. This one, however, definitely is a wrap dress, so the closure is right here and it wraps around the front. This has short raglan sleeves and a low V-neck, and then a very fitted waistband with the button details on it. I think this is a wrap dress as well, but again, cannot quite remember. The interesting thing about this pattern is I actually have a mail order pattern that is the exact same design with the exact same detailing. So I don't think this was an original design to the New York company. It is a lovely design nonetheless. It is a fitted bodice, a lightly flared gored skirt with optional pockets, and then you have this little sort of flare at the shoulder that creates slightly gathered sleeves, which is just really lovely. I adore this pattern. I'm kind of surprised I didn't keep this for myself. Maybe I kept it in a different size, but this is a shorts or a capri pattern, which are just so rare to find from this period and factory folded in this size. And it's got this really tailored, really amazing shirt to go with it with these patch pockets on the bust. And you can make it sleeveless or with short sleeves. I guess this isn't a repeat, but I definitely have this in other larger sizes. So this is a slip pattern and a bloomers pattern. So you've got the top pants or the underwear. You've got this lovely V-neck or sweetheart neckline slip that is fitted with darts at the waist. Here we have a very full skirt. You can see the lady on the envelope with her hand out, sort of showing the amount of volume it has. I'd imagine this is almost a full circle skirt, and then it's got a very fitted waistband by contrast, and a square neckline, sort of overlapping details that would allow you to introduce a contrasting fabric, which would look really lovely, I'd imagine. This is a very cute dress, very much my type of pattern, just a gathered skirt, buttons to the waist, slightly off the shoulder dolman sleeves, and either a square neck or collar. This one buttons all the way down the front and has a collar and has a yoke that has the sleeves as part of it. I feel like that would be a pain in the butt to fit, but I really do like the effect of it being made out of a contrasting fabric with the contrasting cuffs. I think this entire illustration looks really, really striking. This is sort of in between those last two. This has a button placket detail to the bottom of the hips or so, and this has an interesting yoke detail too, which is sort of mimicked by the pockets, which have the inverse. So that's a really cute detail. And this has pleats or tucks both above and below the waist to offer shaping. You can make this sleeveless or with long sleeves, and it's got sort of a semi-fitted skirt. It's kind of a pencil skirt but with pleats for extra volume. This is a halter style sort of dress, and then you can actually add short sleeves which almost look like raglan sleeves at the angle they're attached, so that's interesting. This is very fitted through the bodice with darts to shape it. It buttons to the waist and then has these large pockets with an optional scallop detail, which is very, very cute. It looks like it has gathers all the way around for extra volume. This is another one of the formal patterns in this lot, or more formal patterns. This is a sweetheart neck pattern with kind of a cap sleeve detail. It looks like the bodice has been top stitched to. It has a basque waist or pointed waist. It's fitted with darts, and then it has a relatively large bias cut skirt with a seam at the front and probably a seam at the center back as well, if I had to guess. Here we have just a typical suit pattern, a lightly gored pencil skirt and then fitted jacket that buttons down the front. This does have a pleated detail at the shoulder, which is a little bit unique, and you can make this with elbow length or short sleeves. This is a jacket and pencil skirt pattern. The jacket, I was going to say has a mandarin collar, but I don't think it does. I think it just has a very high collar that it is cut with, and then the facing offers a bit more shaping to it. And then lastly we have this one, which is a size 20, and now that I'm looking, I think a couple size 20s snuck in here. Not sure what that's about. The size 20s probably won't be listed until a later date. I apologize for any confusion. But this is a really lovely design with a lightly bias cut gored skirt. You've got this yoke detail and then a collar extending from it, and you can make this with short or long sleeves. So that, my friends, was 55 New York Company patterns for a 36-inch bust or larger. I hope you enjoyed seeing them all, and I hope you are happy that I'm back. I'm happy to be back. As I said, at the time this video goes up, all of these should be listed, and I'll be listing more patterns in the coming weeks. And hopefully I'll be filming more videos in the coming weeks with less dog whining in the background. Though that remains to be seen, because she is a feral beast. She's definitely at least a beast.